Hi, guys, and welcome to Surviving Trauma Stories of Hope podcast. In this week's episode, I am delighted to welcome the incredible human Sarah Davis to the show. Sarah joins me from California, and she has an inspiring story to tell. After leaving the small town where she grew up for the big city, Sarah found herself in many challenging situations. To survive her new reality, she braved the tough neighborhoods in Chicago and survived many traumatic events until she received a God-sent epiphany that would change her life forever. Through determination and strength, Sarah left that tough life behind, and through aspiring you coaching, she is now on a mission to help others who were in similar situations make the change in their life. I hope you enjoy the episode and keep listening. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so humbled that you reached out to me. So thanks.
That's awesome. Sarah, before we jump into your story, which is an incredibly inspirational story, can you share a bit with the audience about your background? Who is Sarah?
Sure. So my background is, typical, grew up in a small town north of Chicago. Went to college, met an ex, got into some trouble. And then, for 9+ years, I've been, building up my self-awareness. I've been doing personal development a lot, going to different events, putting myself in these healthy, uncomfortable situations in order to level up and grow in my life, right? And for the past 18 months, I've actually gotten to a point to where I'm traveling a lot. So right now I'm in California. Last year I was in Mexico for a month and a half. I did a 26-day road trip. I went to Georgia for a long weekend with the girls. I was in Vegas for less than 24 hours, and I'm actually going back to Chicago tomorrow morning. But it's been a crazy ride, and ever since I've been in California, I started my coaching business. So I have a coaching company called Aspiring You Coaching. So I'm an awareness coach. And I chose awareness coaching because it's, I believe awareness is the start of everything. It's the spark. It's the idea. It's that thing that's put in front of you that if you don't have awareness, then you miss it. It's almost like a sign. So yeah, so here we are. I'm so excited for the future, and I'm so excited for the next destination, to be honest with you. I just love traveling right now. So it's been fun.
Like, how do you even pick? Do you just decide on the map, boom, that's the next city? Or do you have friends that you visit in all these places?
When I went so it first started with the road trip back in May of 2020. My best friend and I, this is when everything was like starting to shut down, really. And, my best friend and I were like the rebellious ones. She runs a photography. She's a boudoir photographer. So at this point in everything, her business was basically stripped from her. Right. So everything that she worked years for, all the money that she saved up, all the clients that she had lined up, everything that she built on her own as a single mom was like stripped from underneath her. And it was something that was really devastating for her. And she just, she really couldn't find herself, to stay in the space that we were in. And she asked me if I would go with her because she has 2 kids. And she's like, I can't do this alone, but I know I need to do it. And it turned out that I really needed to do it too. So, the first trip, it was more of like an agreement. We had an agreement, like, this is what we need to do. God is calling us to do this for whatever reason. And we went on this road trip together for 26 days across the states, right? And then when we got back, we were back for like a month and a half. And I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. And I've been writing a book for a while, but, I was just going through a thing, and I'm like, man, I need to get out of here again. And for some reason, it was Mexico. So I went down to Mexico. I got a house, and I went down there for a month and a half, and really dug deep into me. I dug deep into like the book. I was faced with, lack of sleep and just an internal battle that I really was faced with, and came to a point where, I faced it head on. So it was an interesting trip. And then, from there, it just kind of flows. Being in California, though, I was told to come to California too. So it's more like, it's like part of my journey. It's almost like a calling, right? Like
Yes.
even coming to California, it's kind of a crazy story. I was sitting at the table with my friend that I took the 26-day road trip with, right? I was telling her, I was like, I'm a lion. So funny. I'm a lion, Molly. Like, I'm strong. I'm a warrior. I'm all these things, right? And she's like, Sarah, she's like, I just got a vision of you as a hamster in a cage. And I'm like, it was like a blow to the gut. I was like, oh my God, I got brought all the way back down to size.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
you're a hamster in a cage. You're not a lion. What are you doing? And I was like, okay, well, what the hell? And then I told her, I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, what am I supposed to do right now? And she was like, San Diego. I don't know why. She's like, I just heard San Diego. I'm like, okay. So she actually bought me a one-way ticket, January 15th. January 20th was like the day that I arrived here. And then I ended up staying with my aunt for like a month and a half. I hadn't seen her in 10 years. I had called her like after we bought the ticket, and I was like, I'm going to be in California. Can I take you out to dinner or lunch? And she's like, sure. Where are you staying? If you don't have a place, come stay with me, and all the things. So I stayed with her. I know. I stayed with her for a month and a half, and I'm here now. And ever since I've been here, I've got introduced to my now coach. I got introduced to this community that I'm a part of, and I've built out my awareness coaching and all these different programs and stuff like that. So being here and coming here was a calling. It wasn't me just like I said, a weekend away. It was basically God like pulling me in the direction that He needs me to go right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been a beautiful, beautiful blessing. I love it.
I love it too,
Yeah.
So can we jump in and maybe just touch on your story? So from a childhood perspective, I know that you had a happy childhood. I suppose for you, it only really started to turn a bit darker in your life in the later years.
Yes.
So share with the audience that experience.
Yeah. So, first of all, when I was young, I always wanted to be more than what was presented to me in a sense, if that makes sense. It was more like I always knew that I wanted to travel. I always knew that I wanted to get out of the town that I grew up in. And there was nothing wrong with the town that I grew up in. It was just a small town, right? So I actually, when I was 19, I moved out to Florida. I worked at Disney World. And when I came back, I went to school in downtown Chicago. And when I was there, I ended up meeting my ex. And for 3 years, I was in a physically and emotionally abusive relationship. And I was in and out of the hood of Chicago. I was selling crack. I was escorting. I was in many different situations to where I didn't think that I was going to see the next minute of my life. So it was a crazy, crazy time period. But finally, I just had a moment where I said enough is enough, and I decided to get out of it. And I was actually lucky in a sense to where, my ex was more or less taken out of my life. He went to jail for 6 years. So he was taken away. A lot of people who are in that type of situation aren't blessed in that sense, right?
Yes.
A lot of them, they have to find a way and have the strength to leave while in the midst of this person being still present in their life. So I was very blessed in that sense, and it was a lot easier for me than it is for a lot of women or men in general when they're in these types of situations. So yeah.
So you touched on so many different things right now. So let's start about with the physical abuse and the mental abuse. I mean, I think that when anything like that happens to you, you don't realize until you are in it.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's like a buildup. It's like a training. It's a conditioning that these people go through and that people push you through, right? And if you are like me and you grew up and again, I'm not blaming, my grow up situation, but it does play a factor into the fact that I was very naive at my age. I've never met anybody like my ex before. And even to this day, he is one of the best, smoothest talkers that I've ever met in my life. Like his story, the way he tells stories is on a totally different level than anybody I've ever met. And, that piece was like so captivating to me because he was so new. He was something interesting. He was something fresh, but it was the small things. It turned into like, the small digs, the cheating, and when I knew he was cheating, but still like wanting to be with him because he was so captivating, like, and then it turned into, I would say something that he didn't like, or I would kind of like backfire at him in a sense, and he would backfire at me, and it just built from there. It built into a very toxic type of environment, and it wasn't just him either. Like I wasn't the person that I am today back then, but we all go through these. It's almost like a building block. It was a building block for me. It was a sense where I had to be that person for a short while to understand certain things. And I had to be with someone like him for a short while to understand his type of people and his type of thing too, right? And when I say his type of people, I mean people who are have that mouth game that they use in a negative way. Like they have that slick talk. Those talkers, those smooth talkers that can, put things in a certain way that sound good, but in actuality, it's not a good situation. So
it's just manipulation.
Huh? Yeah, manipulation to the fucking fullest, man. But it's like the game that they play is crazy.
And the thing about abuse is that first punch or that first slap, you generally think, oh, that could probably be justified, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the first time that happened, I don't even know what the whole thing was about. All I remember is that his brother was there, and his brother said something to me, and I snapped back at him. Like, I was not having it. I was not about it. Like, I don't know what the hell he said to me, but I was not having it. And he smacked the shit out of me in front of him. And I don't even remember what it was about. But here's the thing at the same time. Like, at that time, I was having a very big dispute with my family. So my family life, it was almost like I let my pride get in the way because I was so young. I was 19 at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like the first time that I was really outside of my family. And that was the first time that I was really like being able to be on my own. And we were just not agreeing. My family and I, we were not on the same page. And instead of taking these signs and using them for what they were as to who he was as an individual and how he was going to treat me in the future, my pride got in the way because I didn't want my family to be right about this man that they were actually right about. I wanted it to be where he was going to turn into something that he wasn't, where he was going to prove them wrong about who he was, but in reality, they were just fucking right. And I was too stubborn to allow that to be what it was,
Yeah. So being in an abusive relationship, how does that turn into, prostitution or homelessness? I mean, at what point does it escalate to that?
Yeah. So, because I was in such a disarray with my family, right? And I didn't want to go home. I didn't want them to be right. I didn't want them to be right on any sense of anything that I was doing. I remember the first time I was in a prostitution, escort, whatever it is, type situation. whatever you want to call it, man. It's all the same.
Okay.
I don't even want you to edit this out because people call it many different things. And
Okay.
they think that the terminology changes the reality of the situation. It's all the same. Like whether you call it a prostitute, an escort, a whore, whatever term you use, it's all the same. It doesn't matter, right? It's just a term. It's just a word for the situation. The reality is that like I was living with someone, you know, and I couldn't make rent. And I remember like I was actually introduced to this whole like sugar baby, sugar daddy type thing back before I even met my ex. So one of my friends was actually doing this. She was going through college. She was going through law school and she was using this as a way to pay for her rent and stuff like that. So it was something that I was previously introduced to. And when I got into this situation, I was living with this guy and I couldn't make my rent. And to be honest with you, he kind of scared me. So I was like, okay, I need to make my rent. Like, I'm not going to fuck around with his money. So like, period. I'm not going to do that. So that was the first time I did it. And that was, to be honest with you, like that was the most, I feel like that was the most dangerous time. I needed the money right away. It was more out of like a desperation type of situation.
Yes.
And so I put myself into that situation without vetting the person first. So that was, I guess, technically like the most dangerous. And really wasn't dangerous. I was just more like disgusted. So that was that experience. From there, it honestly, like, the escorting, whatever, it was something that was an escape for me. You know, like I started using it as a business, to be honest. And this is the first time in my life that I ever looked at myself as a business. Right? So I understood that I was the thing, I was the person, I am the one who's making the money. These men are coming to me because of me, because of who I am, because of what I'm representing in front of them at this point in time. So I am the business, right?
Yes.
When I had people who wanted me to be their sugar baby, because that's what it was called with what I was doing, it was like, I would take the time to vet them. You know, they would have to take me out to like dinner. We would have to meet for coffee, dinner, lunch, whatever it was. We would have to meet first and I would vet you. I would basically interview you and I knew that they were interviewing me. So it was like a mutual agreement that we were going to meet and decide if we were going to work together, if it was something that we could move forward with. Because these people weren't looking for like a one night stand. This was literally something to where, you know, they could call me and they could like treat me to dinner, have me go and get my hair done, get my nails done. And then it was like, we would come together and, you know, do the thing. I've never seen it like that before. So that's an exclusive on the show.
I love it.
But that's how it was, you know, and these older men, these guys were like business owners. A lot of them made a lot of fucking money, you know, they were business owners. They ran their own shit. They had so much knowledge. So for me, when I was able to put myself in these type of situations and be around these men, I was picking their brain all the time. And business owners love to talk about their business. So for me, I was such a sponge that I was really absorbing so much from them. And then it became a point to where like my actual living situation was so rough that being with them was like an escape for me. It was like, you know, I got to escape my actual reality. And a lot of these guys on a very real level treated me way better than my ex ever did. So again, it was like, it was an escape for me and it was something that I honestly built off of. I really don't think that, because I have a lot of business knowledge now and I feel like, and I know a lot of it came from putting myself in that situation. So I'm not, like, that's why I'm so open about it. Because it really built me into who I am today. And I'm proud of the woman that I am today. Like, when I look in the mirror, I have no regrets about who she is. Like, she's here for a reason and she's going to change lives. And that's whether you like me or not. You don't have to like me. You don't have to be a part of my people. That's fine. But I don't regret and I don't feel a type of way about any of the things that I did because I learned so much from it. Like I sponged it up. I soaked it in and and I moved forward to where I am today. So yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's great. I mean, you've got such a positive outlook, you know, and it's not, I think it's so great when people can use their past and to the good, you know, and share it in a positive way with others. You are perfect, perfect.
Thank you. It's funny because and a lot of people, because it's so like pushed under the rug and there's such a stigmatized notion about prostitution, escorting, whoring, sugar babies, all the things, whatever you want to call it, right? There's such a stigmatization in our society around it and around specifically the women who partake in it. But it is extremely prevalent in like colleges and in like younger women's lives that a lot of people don't realize the fact that it is prevalent to the level. So I feel like for me, I'm able to speak on it because one, it doesn't like I said, it built me into who I am. And two, I feel like because I know if I was doing it, there's so many other young women and so many other women my age right now who have done it and who may not have the same outlook that I have. Yeah. So I'm able to come in and help them. Just be like, it's the past. Like you can't change it. Just accept it or release it or heal from it. Whatever it is that you have to do, I can help them get there because that's a part of my job, right?
Right. So, right.
I mean, that's why I'm talking about it.
So, I mean, if I think about your circumstances, being in this abusive relationship, doing the escorting, you know, being homeless at the time and having all these things happen to you at the same time, how did you manage to get out of it? Because I imagine that your self-worth was quite low. Your deservability would have been quite low. You didn't really believe you deserved more. So how did that change happen for you? And you decided to leave that life behind?
So I don't know if anyone has heard of like the enough is enough moments, right? Some people who get out of certain types of situations, they have like this enough is enough moment. Like they look at the whole entire situation. They're like, I just can't do this shit anymore. Like I can't do this. So mine was actually the last time that I saw my ex and he was in jail. So, I don't know. Have you ever seen the Goodfellas?
I'm embarrassed.
You haven't? Okay. So it's a good movie, but it's like one of those gangster films. I'm all into gangster films. I just love them all.
Okay, I'm definitely watching it. I'm finding it on Netflix tonight.
You should. It's so good. I love it so much. But there's this part in the movie, right, where his wife is going to visit him in jail, and she knows about his other lady, right? At this point, so when she's going to see him in jail, when she's signing in, like on the sign-in books, she sees his other lady's name in the book, right? And when she goes in there to visit him, she's just fuming, like bottling up from the inside, overloading, just like throwing all the items that she snuck into the jail at him, like causing a fucking scene. The kids are crying. All types of shit is going on in this movie, right? So literally, this is what happened to me. And I remember going into the jail to see him for the last time. And I remember seeing this chick's name, like, in the books. And I'm like, I cannot believe this is fucking happening. Like, this only happens in movies. How is this real life right now? And I remember signing my name and just sitting back, like, looking at everyone in there. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Why am I here? And I remember just going through this battle in my head, right? And to add on to it, at Cook County, when you're going back to visit someone, they have you go through like this tiny narrow corridor. Everyone's in a line. You go through this tiny narrow dark ass corridor, and then you're filed into the room to where you sit down to speak to your person through the pane glass windows and stuff. And then they lock you in this room And you just like wait for whoever it is that you're trying to speak to come out and file in. And it's like, I don't want to do this. Like if he was someone that deserved for me to stay around, right? I probably would have put up with it. But at this point, I'm like, you got this other chick already coming to see you and everything. Like, you don't need me to be here. Like, I don't need to be here. So I was like, calm, cool, collected. I didn't throw a fit like this chick did in the movie. I didn't throw a fit. I let him cry. I let him do all the things. I let him ask me to find a way to get him bail money. I let him, do all of it. And I remember I just finally was like, well, I saw that she was here. Did you ask her to get you bail money too? Because like, how is that going to work? And he was like, and then all of a sudden, like, I know that you're going to be the only one who can see this, but he put his arms up on the table, right? So his arms are like elevated and the side of his hand is showing. And on the side of his hand, he had my name tattooed on him. So he must have got it within like the week and a half or whatever it was that he was in jail, right? So he got my name tattooed on the side of his hand.
That's quite a commitment.
Yeah. And I always told him never to do that. First of all, I always told him never to do that. So when he did it, he like presented it to me in almost like a proud sense. Like, yeah, I showed her this and she knows what's up. She's not going to be around anymore. All the things. And I was like, all right. And I just like, I didn't even tell him that I was never coming back because at that point I didn't even know. But what happened to me was on the ride home when I was in my car, I remember I had like this vision. I had like an epiphany of my future. And it was basically where him and I would get into a fight, right? And it would get to that point to where he thought it was okay to put his hands on me. So he would punch me, slap me, whatever it is. I'd be on the floor and he'd stand over me and show me his hand and be like, see, this hand was meant for you. Your name is on it. Like that's some shit. Yeah. So that was the epiphany that I had. And I was like, after I had that vision and I know God gave it to me because it was like a defining moment. It was such a turning point in my life. And I was like, yeah, I'm not living my life like that. I'm done. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. The last time I ever saw him. And that was, that was my turnaround moment. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like,
I deserve better. I deserve more.
Yeah. And like I said, for me, it was easy to get out because he was taken away. It's not like I had to run into him. It's not like he was calling me or any of the things, and if he was writing me letters, I'm sure my family was throwing them away. Like, we are not dealing with his ass anymore, and, but I always say too, a lot of people are told that leaving is the hardest part. And it really bothers me when these people tell women that, or tell just anyone in general who's in an abusive relationship that leaving is the hardest part, because it's like, it's not. The hardest part is when you have to stand and look yourself in the mirror and be like, what is it about you that allowed that into your life? Like, what is it about you that said, this is okay, that you deserve this type of shit, that you were going to do all these things, that you were going to put yourself in these situations and live your life like this? Like, this isn't him, this is you. You're the one who allowed it. You have to take self-responsibility for your situations, and that's how you grow. Like, that's how you elevate, when you take responsibility for the situations that you're in your life, right?
Yeah.
And that is the hardest part, asking yourself why and digging deep. Like, those are the hard parts. Leaving is the easiest shit. When you have to look at yourself and be like, damn, what is it? Like, why did you let this happen? Like, you have some changing to do.
I mean, I'm listening to you now, and you're saying, how it's describing how you managed to get out. I think the difficult thing once you actually leave is taking your power back. And when we've been through the trials and the tribulations that life gives us, we have really low self-esteem, really low self-worth. Our desirability is at an all-time low.
Yes.
So tell the audience, what you did to take your power back.
Yeah. I dug deep. like really deep. So if people are listening to this, right, whoever is listening to this, and if you've never heard of mirror work and you feel like there's things in your life that you want to change, you just don't know how to go about it. Mirror work is some of the most powerful things that you can do. So basically what I did is, like I said, I literally looked myself in the mirror. I would sit down in front of the mirror in my room and I would just look at myself. And I would have my journal and I'd be like, what is it that I need to change? Like, what do I see when I look at me? Like, what is it? And I would write down, and it's not positive shit that comes out. That's why I say this is hard. Healing's hard. Like, it's not an easy journey, but it's completely worth it in the end. Like, I've been doing this for 9+ years. I'm to the point right now to where I'm able to give back and serve my community of women and teach them the tools that I've used because I did the hard work.
Yes.
So just to preface, like, this is not going to be an easy exercise. Stand in front of the mirror, put on music if you need music, whatever it is that gets you in like a calm, almost meditative type state. And just look at yourself and write down the things that come to your mind. Don't filter yourself. Don't edit yourself, right? Some of the shit that you write down you can throw away, but some of the shit you should pay attention to. So if there's something that you don't like about what you see, address it. Like, don't bury it, address it.
Yeah.
Face it head on. What is it? And then, take that thing. Say you're looking at yourself, right? And you're like, oh, my stomach's a little bigger than it should be. Right? And I really don't like it. Everyone in the world is saying self-love, love yourself, you're beautiful as you are. But I really feel bad about this part of my body. So for me, my self-love, true self-love, is actually fixing that thing that's bothering me and not listening to the outside world who's telling me that I just need to love my body as it is. Like, I actually want to do something and fix this part of my body, right? So write it down and then write down action items. What is it that you can do to fix it? How do you fix it? Go to the gym. Like, spend an hour at the gym 3 times a week. Just start small. If you can only start with 2 times a week, start small. You have to
or even just a walk. Like,
right.
just going for a walk in a park.
Yeah. Do something. So here's something that was very real for me, right? I didn't like it that when I looked in the mirror, all I saw was a young woman who lied, right? I was such a good liar that I almost believed what I was saying. Like, that's how good I was. And part of it became a skill. Part of it was because of, like, the shit that I told my family to, like, get them off my back. Part of it was the shit that I told my ex so that we wouldn't get into a fight. And part of it was the shit that I would tell these sugar daddies that I was escorting with to, like, put on this character, have this character role that I was putting myself into, to appease to them. So all of these lies that I was putting out, I was almost believing them, right? And I didn't like that about myself. I didn't like the fact that I was basically a professional liar. And that was just the reality of it, right? So when I looked at myself and I realized that shit, I was like, okay, so what can I do to stop lying? And honestly, like, I'm kind of like one of those cold turkey type of people. So I just made a vow to God, because at that point, my relationship with God was building it was just building. I had never had a relationship with him before that was so strong. And, I just made a vow to God. I was like, okay, no more. I'm not going to lie from here on out. And I haven't. Like, I might tell maybe like a white lie to surprise somebody in the end. But when it comes to, like, major things, if somebody asks me, I tell them the truth. So that was like that small thing that I did at that point. But yeah, so basically just when you're doing the mirror work and when you're writing down these things that you see that you want to change, just don't make it bigger than what it actually is. Just take the small steps, take the small actions that are going to get you to the place and that are going to build you up into the position that you want to see. That's going to, really elevate you. But you have to start small. If it's too big at the top, you're never going to be able to get there. You have to funnel it down into the daily small steps that you can take to get there. So.
Yeah. Such good advice,
Yeah.
Because the small steps makes the big one manageable.
Yeah. So it's funny. I did a mini course recently, and I put out a free mini course, and it's called The Uncomfortability Factor, right? And it's this whole thing that I didn't even realize what I was doing when I started doing it. And now I'm to the point to where I'm reflecting back and I'm like, that's what this is. It's called the uncomfortability factor. And it's basically the whole idea around putting yourself in those healthy, uncomfortable situations so that you can get from one level to the next. It's like building blocks. And even when I started with that, it was small steps. It was like, I went from, I wanted to go to the movies, but nobody would be able to go with me. So I would go to a matinee by myself. And a lot of times it would be like just me and this older woman sitting in the movie theater by ourselves, eating our popcorn. It's just a small step. And it sounds so simple, right? But then from there, I went from that and I went into going to restaurants by myself. I would sit at the bar and I would eat alone. And then from that, it was like I would go to the restaurant, eat alone, and do my work. And then from there, it went into like, okay, I'm going to go to this event with a bunch of people who are on a totally different level than me. And I have no idea what they're saying half the time or what they're even talking about. But I'm going to go because I want to be like them. I aspire to be like them. So I would put myself in those situations. And then I went from there and I went to like vacationing by myself, traveling alone internationally by myself. I went from there to being where I'm at now.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just a buildup. Once you wrap your head around doing the small things, the small uncomfortable things, and you consistently do it and you put yourself in these healthy, uncomfortable situations, it's gonna elevate you to a level that you can't even see right away. Like I didn't understand what I was doing when I was doing it. I just knew I had to do something, right? To get myself to a new level. I didn't like who I was looking at. I didn't like the situation that I was in. So like I started small, like do the thing that you want. If you want wine tonight, have wine tonight. Like, and allow yourself to live in that joy, in that like, in like serving yourself, maybe that's what it is. It's like a form of serving you. It's not serving your community. You have to serve yourself and pour into yourself first before you can allow yourself to pour into other people and to pour into the community, right?
Absolutely. So we've touched on your business, right? Which is Aspiring You. So why did you start that?
For some of us, finding our passion is so hard, right? Like when I got out of my situation, like I said, I spent 9+ years doing mindset, personal development, going to events, right? Like doing a lot of writing, getting different trainings, having different coaches and stuff myself. And for a while, like I just didn't know what it was that really drove me. So I did a lot of many different things in my 20s. Like in my 20s, I was in corporate banking. I worked for a startup e-com company. I worked for a Facebook ads company. I worked for real estate. I did the restaurant industry. I did so many different things. And one thing that I recognized is that every single thing that I did, every single position or company that I was with, I was always put into like a higher role naturally. Like I was always naturally put into like a leadership role or a training type role where I was coaching and I was like really helping other people hone in on their own skills so that they could excel at whatever it was that we were doing, right? And when I recognized this and when I really got to the point to where I was like, I know I can't, I'm to the point where I'm like, I know I can't work for other people. Like I just don't have the mentality for it anymore, right? And I sort of trained myself that way. And when I got to California, I was introduced to my current coach. And it's kind of weird because it all just sort of like came together. I had Aspiring Sarah D as my social handle for a long time. And I never really realized why. Like I had Aspiring Sarah D because it was like when I was watching these different people, they were like, oh, I'm a CEO, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm a dancer, all these different things, but they were never actually really doing what they said that they were doing, right? They were never actually like successful. It was like sort of like something that they put in their bio because they thought that it would elevate them. And speaking yourself into existence is very real, but when I saw kind of like this masquerade going on, right, in the social communities, I was like, I don't want to do that because I'm aspiring. And not only that, but I'm aspiring to be so many different things. I can't put it all in my bio. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that going to look like? I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I'm an aspiring writer. I'm an aspiring world traveler. I'm an aspiring dancer. I'm an aspiring like model, all of these different things. And I'm like, I can't. So I decided just to say like aspiring Sarah D, right? And I'm aspiring to be the best version of myself that I can be. So when I really got to California and when I really sat down with my coach and when I knew that I wanted to be an awareness coach because I could talk about it for days, I could teach about it, I have the tools that I've done the work, like I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, but what is it that I want to give to the women? What is it that I want to serve them with? And for me, it's like, I want to serve them with aspiring you. Like you can, and I put you so that you can put your last name on, or your name on the end of it. You are aspiring to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And I want to help you get there. So that's why I came up with Aspiring You Coaching. Like that's a whole entire vision around it, empowering women to be the best version of themselves. So that's where it birthed from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, woman empowering woman.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I really love is that you have already done the work. You were your own case study.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you can lead the way. You can almost, maybe your story or the work that you've done can be someone else's survival guide.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why I hone in on my story so much, because, it was hard. It wasn't easy. Like I understand certain things on a very different level. Like I get it. I have the street smarts. I have the professional smarts. I have the side of me where I can be soft and like take in the information and allow you to cry and allow you to go through the emotions that you have to go through to get to the next level. Or I have that side of me to where I can be like, no, like cut that out. We're not going to do that. I have that side to where I don't have to be soft. I know that you need somebody who's going to tell you, like, you need to make a change now. I'm here to push you to do the work. I'm your accountability person. And if you do the work, I promise you're going to look back and be like, dang, she was right. She was right though. She told me all about it. I was fighting her, but now I'm to the point to where I'm thanking her. Like, you were right. I just had to sit down and sit with myself and do the hard shit in order to get to this level. And I want to give that to people, and I want my people to grow out of me. A lot of these coaches out here nowadays, it's like they build this codependency type of relationship with their clients. It's like they need the income and their client like needs them as a friend more than a coach. And I'm like, I'm not about that. I need you to outgrow me, because if you don't outgrow me, then I'm not doing my job. I need you to level up. I need you to get past me. Like that's my job. My job is to let you go and flourish and level up in whatever way it is that you're supposed to level up. I don't want you with me forever. Because if you're with me forever, then I'm not doing my job. Like that's not what a coach is supposed to do, right? So I want to take that different aspect on that level as well. And I'm so excited to bring it out. I can't. I'm just like, I feel so blessed.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's fun. It's a blessing for sure.
Yeah. So, Sarah, what did I hear about a boudoir shoot?
Oh, yeah. So much fun.
Because I secretly would also like to do a boudoir shoot.
Girl.
So you're going to have to give me the pointers.
Yes. No, you should. So listen, about like two and a half years ago, right? I did my first boudoir shoot. And this was like at a point in my life to where I was finally like, I felt like I was closing a book. Like I was ending a book. I did all the hard work. I found out who I was. I figured all the things out that I needed to figure out at that point in time, right? And then I just always had this desire to do a boudoir photo shoot because, I would see pictures of these women who were like just, They looked so classy. They looked so elegant. But at the same time, they were sexy as hell. And they were just like owning their body, and they were owning who they are in that moment. And it was like a snapshot in time that it was so priceless, right? And I just remember like always having that enamor with these type of photography that I would see. And it turns out this girl that I went to school with is actually a boudoir photographer. But the thing is, she's not just a boudoir photographer. She's known globally for her work. Like the people in her community, she's constantly recognized for her photography. She's constantly being recognized for the work that she puts out and the artistic ability that she just naturally has with this, right? And, so I reached out to her and I was like, look, I really want to do this. So when I went in and when I did my first shoot, like I said, it was a big moment for me. It was me closing a book, starting a new one. And that was actually the first time that I ever really spoke about my previous situation with the abuse and like all of the things. And I was telling her my story, right? And she told me, she was like, look, I'm actually hiring brand ambassadors right now. She's like, I'm going to be hiring people to represent my brand and to put out my work on a regular basis. And she's like, one of the requirements is that you actually have to have done a photo shoot with me. She's like, so if everything goes well, I love your story. She's like, I would love it if you would apply to be a brand ambassador. So I ended up doing that. I ended up applying to be a brand ambassador. I got accepted. We all came together. And it was just like the beginning. Honestly, it was like I said, the beginning of a new book. It was the beginning of everything for me. It was like when I started sharing my story, I was creating these, different parts of self for like this artistic side of these different photo shoots and stuff like that. I had this one photo shoot where I actually took her down to the area that I was in Chicago when I was in the hood and shit like that. And I had her take pictures of this alleyway that I used to walk through like on a daily basis. I had her take a picture of a building that, that I used to stay in. And then I took her to like this graffiti section that I absolutely love. You know, it was something that I still do. It's something that we do together. We still do photo shoots together today. And it's just a bond that we built. And it's really a way to elevate the way that you look at yourself. Like if you're really serious about doing a boudoir shoot, find a good photographer, find someone who has that eye that you like, who has the style that you like, and just do it. Because you're going to come out of there and you're going to walk differently. You're going to hold yourself differently. You're going to look in the mirror differently. You're going to be like, bitch, you are that bitch. Like, you are it. You are a sexy mama. You got this. Like nothing can touch you. You're going to go home to your husband and be like, babe, look. Like, it is something that's completely transformative. If you find the right person for you, it will transform your whole entire outlook on like who you are. And I actually, you want to know what? When we get off of this, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit more information on something that I think you would like.
Okay, Sunny.
So we'll do that back end. But yeah, I would definitely do that for anyone, for any woman, anyone who's like wanting to do boudoir, do it. Like, do not hesitate. Dive in, do it. Put yourself in that healthy, uncomfortable situation. Find a good photographer who is going to capture the style that you want and just do it, man. It's life changing. It really is. I cannot say enough about it. I will do it forever in my life. And probably post my pictures.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So, people who would like to get in contact with you, for aspiring you, would like to hire you as a coach to hold their hand and walk with them the journey that they are on, where can they get hold of you?
Yeah, so if you reach out to me on any social media platform, it's at Aspiring Sarah D. So you can reach out to me there. And then the private women's Facebook group is Aspiring You, and you just search it on Facebook. You can put it in there, and once I accept you, we can have a conversation going forward. I am going to be having an 8-week program come out called the Mindset Purge. So that will be released at the beginning of April, and then we'll go from there for sure. Just reach out to me, let me know what it is that you're looking for, and we can do all of the things. For sure.
Any last words of inspiration or encouragement for the audience that you have in closing?
Yeah, so I actually I feel like I touched on this a little bit, and I want to go ahead and touch on it again. This whole idea of like self-love and self-worth, right? So I want people to understand, like, there is this huge push right now in social platforms in society to love yourself as you are. And I don't disagree with it, but I do honestly feel like if you look at yourself in the mirror and you see the things that you don't like when you look in the mirror, self-love is changing it. Self-love is adapting. Self-love is evolving. Self-love is allowing yourself to grow from that situation and take control and take the small actions in order to get yourself to the next level. That is true self-love. When you can look at the things that you don't necessarily like, and when you can allow yourself to change them, that's actual self-love. That is self-worth right there, because you know that you're worth more. So no matter what the outside circumstances are telling you on how you should feel when you look in the mirror, if you don't feel that way, that's fine. Change it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to change what you see. That's what you should be doing. Evolution is life. If you don't evolve, you stay stagnant and you flatline. And that's not what you want your life to look like. So allow yourself to evolve, allow yourself to adapt, allow yourself to grow into that vision of that person that you have in the future. That is so crucial. It's so incredibly crucial, because we all deserve to be that future vision of who we want in our lives. So I'll leave the audience with that, and I really hope that it resonates and hones in with many of you who are going to listen to this. So, yes.
That's great advice, Sarah.
Thank
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. I had so much fun. You're such a delight.
Oh, thank you.
That wraps up this podcast episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy my podcast, please take a minute to give me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast directory so you don't miss an episode. Please consider following My Centered Life on Facebook and Instagram for daily inspiration. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You can catch me again in the next episode. Same time, same place. Sending you lots of love and light. Bye.